Hey guys, this is 2.3 level 1 notes. So we're going to take what we did in 2.2 and just add an additional variable in there. Still kind of the same idea. We're still looking for either pairs or groups of 3 based on what type of root it is. So I'll go through a couple examples with you, very simple and then a little bit more complex. So we're going to do A first and then C, and then we're going to go to B and then go to D. So let's go ahead and take a look at A. So we're going to simplify this, okay? We can break this up really into 2 different roots if you wanted to, okay? We're going to simplify this. You could break it up into the square root of 4 and the square root of a squared, okay? That means the same thing. For right now, I'm just going to keep it simple and keep it together. So I'm going to simplify the 4, and I know I can simplify that into 2 times 2. Now with the a, I'm going to write out how many a's I really have. So remember, this 2 means I have 2 a's. So I'm going to write 1, 2 a's. Now remember, since it's a square root, I want pairs for this one. Okay, groups of 2. So I have 1, 2 here, so that's going to come out. And then the variables will work the same way. I want to look for groups of that same letter. So I have a group of a's out here, so the a will come out. And now since there is nothing left over that I haven't circled, the root is going to go away and my answer is just going to be 2a. Okay, let's take a look at C, one that's a little bit more complex. Just to make this clear, this 3 here is on the B. That does not mean the cube root. And if there's any question about whether it is on the variable outside or on the root, just ask me and I'll clarify that for you, because I know it can get tricky. Okay, so same idea. We're going to kind of ignore this 3b to the third out in front to begin with, and then we'll take that back into consideration at the end. So I'm going to simplify 48. Let's do, I don't know, 2 and 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the variables. So b to the 4th means I have 1, 2, 3, 4 b's. C to the 7th means I have 7 c's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And D to the 10th means I have 10. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now that I have everything broken down, I'm going to look for my groups of 2 because it's a square root. So here's one group of 2. So here's where I'm going to bring this down. 3b to the 3rd. I have a 2 from here. I have another group of 2. Now the variables. Here's one pair of b's. Here's another pair of b's. Here's a pair of c's, here's a pair of c's, here's a pair of c's. So I have 3 c's. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3, 5 d's. Okay, now time for our leftovers. Well, with the 48, there is only a leftover of 3. With the c's, there's only a leftover of c. B's all got circled and d's all got circled. So our leftovers here are going to be 3 times c, or just 3c. And now we're going to simplify this. So numbers wise, I have 3 times 2 times 2, which is going to be 12. And then I have b to the 3rd and another 2 b's. And that's going to be b to the 5th. If you remember, when we have exponents, we want to add all those together. And then the c's, I have 3 here, so it's going to be c to the 3rd. And I have 5 d's out here, d to the 5th. And then I want to write my leftovers. So your final answer is going to be 12, b to the 5th, c to the 3rd, d to the 5th, square root 3c. Okay, so what I want you to notice is you can write out all these variables all the time, every single time, and you'll be fine. You'll get the right answers. Okay, but I also want you to notice and take a look at this. If we're taking the square root, look at the number 4 on the b. If I take that exponent and divide it by 2, since I'm looking for pairs, that's going to equal 2. And that's what I took out here on the bottom, an additional 2 b's. If I do that same thing for the c, 7 divided by 2, that's going to be 3 with 1 left over. So that's how I got 1, 2, 3 c's, and there was 1 that was left over inside the root. Same thing with the d. 10 divided by 2 was 5, and that's how I got 5 d's on the outside, and there's no remainder. Now, if that just confused you, skip it. Let's move on to the cube roots. But if that makes sense to you, that's a shortcut that you could use instead of writing out all the variables. But like I said, if that confused you, go ahead and write out all the variables. That's been very successful with students in the past. Okay? All right, let's take a look at a cube root now. So I'm going to break it down the same way. I'm going to break down 8, same way that I would. Okay, I'm going to break down x to the 6, and I'm going to write out all of them. Okay, but again, because it's a cube root, I want groups of 3. So I have a group of 3 here. So that comes out. And one group of 3 x's, and another group of 3 with an x. So it would be 2x squared. Okay. Now again, going back to that other thing that I was talking about, the shortcut, if you look at the exponents, you take 6 and divide it by whatever root you're looking for, how many groups that you're looking for. 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2, and that's a shortcut way to get that exponent of 2. Okay. Again, if that totally confuses you, just ignore that section and keep writing out all the variables. All right, let's try D. We're going to simplify 81. I'm going to do 9 and 9. All right, and then I have 12 p's. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I have 8 q's. Whoops, I did 9. One too many, got carried away. Okay, so now since I'm looking for a cube root, I want pairs of 3, or groups of 3 again. So I have one group of 3, so that will come out. I have 1 p, 2 p's, 3 p's, and 4 p's. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one, to this one, to this one, and to that one. And I have 1, 2 q's. Okay, now for the leftovers. I have one group of 3, or 1, 3, and I have 2 q's left over. So when I simplify this, outside I have 4 p's, which means p to the 4th, and 2 q's, which means q to the 2nd. And then on the inside, you still have the cube root of 3q to the 2nd. Okay? So those are level 1s. Like I said, be careful with those variables. If this is very confusing for you and there's a lot of letters and numbers to keep track of, I highly suggest that you write them all out. I know it can be a pain to write out 12 p's and 8 q's, but trust me, if you do that and you do it consistently, you'll eventually get comfortable enough where you might be able to do it in your head. Okay? You guys can do this. I know you can.